Star Wars came out in 1977 and is written and directed by George Lucas and stars Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Alec Guiness, and Carrie Fisher, and kickstarted maybe the greatest movie trilogy, maybe the greatest franchise of all time, Star Wars. Star Wars has firmly set itself in today's modern pop culture, and even 45 years later, what George Lucas was able to accomplish is fucking brilliant and masterful. So if you do a little bit of research on Star Wars: A New Hope, you will realize that generally speaking, the production of this movie wasn't good. Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill have been known to kind of mess around on set unless Alec Guinness was on there because he was a really respected actor in 1977. And knowing that and knowing how much George Lucas had to deal with just to make this movie and how getting the rights to a whole trilogy of this movie he basically got for pocket change, you'll know this is more impressive than you actually think. It just shows how great of a director and writer George Lucas really is, which makes you start to wonder, what the fuck happened? Ah! 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 But anyway, let's actually get into this movie review. And before I even get any further with this, know this is going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen Star Wars, two things. First of all, what the hell are you doing? Why would you do that? Go watch Star Wars, do yourself that favor, get some popcorn and energy drink, go have some fun, come back to this movie review, and yeah, let's start reviewing Star Wars. So I rewatched this movie literally just yesterday, and I tried to do so resetting my whole memory and brain knowledge of Star Wars, because it's so easy to watch this movie, especially today, after reading all the Star Wars comics, reading all these books on it, seeing every single Star Wars movie at least 5 times. It's so easy to look at this and be like, oh yeah, that's Darth Vader. Oh yeah, that's Luke Skywalker. Oh yeah, it's still badass and entertaining because you get lightsabers and blasters and epic music and epic sound effects, but I tried to do this as the people in 1977 had to do. They didn't know what this movie was about. They didn't know what George Lucas was telling. And I wanted to sort of experience that. I wanted to see the true masterclass filmmaking and storytelling on how George Lucas had to set up this entire how he had to set up this galaxy far, far away. The movie starts out right away with us knowing how much of a firm grasp the Empire has over the Rebels, just showing the little tiny Rebel ship, which at first you're like, oh, that's a pretty dope ship. Then you see the Star Destroyer, and you're just like, wow! How is something that big? I mean, seriously, we're instantly told just with that one epic, iconic cinematic shot that the Empire, they have the Rebels in their back pocket. They're not even a threat to them at this point. Just with that little thing, you see them getting blasted at each other, and just all that shit, and eventually the Empire gets like a cloaking hold on the little rebel ship, which is known as the Tantive 4. Yeah, I know. So they get them into the cloaking little thing, and they're trapped, and then starts a epic boarding party, and we are instantly greeted with blasters and stormtroopers and epic sound effects, and I just love it. We are then greeted with the most badass of badassery, one of the coolest, dopest, amazing movie characters of all time, Darth Vader. And how he's introduced, you get this kind of background tonal music just showing that this guy's the man. So he walks in and we instantly know people take control of him as he's telling everyone, find the rebels, I want them alive! We then see this random ass person giving this random ass droid a message saying, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Which then makes you start to wonder, who the hell is Obi-Wan Kenobi and why is he the only hope? So she gives this message to this little droid, and then she eventually gets captured by 2 stormtroopers who shoot her with this really dope laser thing. It's like blue and shit, and I don't know, I just really like it. I love the sound effects. It's like a chew! It almost sounds like a sneeze, but it's like blaster. It's sick. So then Darth Vader captures her, they leave, yada yada yada. And then these 2 droids get basically shipped off in this little thing, and God, just seeing the special effects, even 45 years later almost, they hold up perfectly well, and it's masterful what George Lucas did. So they eventually crash land on this planet called Tatooine, and right away we learn this is C-3PO, this is R2-D2, and we learn about a lot of information on this galaxy far, far away just from the conversations they're having. We've learned there's a war, we learned there's the Empire, we learned all that shit just from these 2 little droids talking. We are then introduced to this character named Luke Skywalker. And at first, you're like, this guy's a snotty little brat. Uncle, I want to go to the Tashi station to pick up some power converters. So these droids, before we even meet Luke Skywalker, get captured by these little weird creatures named Jawas, which we don't know that right away, but they're just like little short people with eyes. And they're in this big thing that's called the Sandcrawler. I know all this shit. I'm sorry, guys. So they're going. And then we meet Luke Skywalker and his uncle and aunt. And they eventually buy R2-D2 and C-3PO, which they actually first buy C-3PO and then buy another astromech droid. Yes, I know what the name of the droid. Okay, I'm just a nerd! So yes, they buy a different astromech droid, but then C-3PO is like, oh, that droid's better because that droid just got destroyed. And then I always wondered, did R2-D2 have something to do with that droid's head exploding? Let me know in the comments if you know that. So then some shit happens. We kind of get to know this guy. We get to know that he wants to be in the Rebel Alliance. We get to know that he's had a bad life. We get to know that he's just sort of been in this trapped place this whole life, which is really, it connects with me a lot because I live in a very small town and I kind of just want to get the hell out of here. So just feeling that, he really just connects with you right away. You know that, this is a good kid at heart who has big dreams and he wants to accomplish them. So then R2-D2 ends up running away and C-3PO and Luke Skywalker go after him. And then some stuff happens. Tusken Raiders get them. And then we see this random guy in the background just like, and then we're like, who the hell is this? So then we see Alec Guiness and he's just this weird old man. And we don't know he's Obi-Wan Kenobi until a little later. We know he's Ben Kenobi from Luke Skywalker. So you're like, oh, Ben, maybe they're related. So then he reveals he's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're like, this old-ass guy is the only hope in the galaxy. Alright, so then Obi-Wan takes him and the droids back to his house, and Luke is powering down C-3PO, it's brilliant to power him down, so it's just between Obi-Wan and Luke. We just get them connecting with each other, which I guess he knows him, but Obi-Wan actually knows everything about Luke's past, it seems like. We learned that Obi-Wan's a Jedi. What the hell is a Jedi? Whatever. Doesn't matter. I know what a Jedi is, but I watched this not knowing what the hell a Jedi was. So we hear about Jedis. We hear Luke had a father. We hear his father's dead. That's why he's living with his aunt and uncle. And we learn that Darth Vader, the man in the very beginning of the movie, is the person who killed his father. And we get to know that Obi-Wan Kenobi had a really big sense of camaraderie and was brothers, basically, with Luke Skywalker's dad. So we know, like, Obi-Wan and Luke should have more connection than it seems like they have. So before Luke and Obi-Wan go on their adventures to go save the galaxy, they actually go back to Luke's house to find his aunt and uncle burned alive at the Crissa, dead. And Luke looks away. He's like, I don't want to look at this. But then he looks right at it. He's like, you know what? No. I'm going to look straight at the thing I do not want to look at. And it's such a little moment. You wouldn't even notice it unless you were kind of really paying attention to the filmmaking. But it's like, it's the first time Luke sort of becomes closer and closer to his Jedi self, aka he's like his man. He's getting closer and closer to a man, aka a Jedi. So then him and Obi-Wan go to the place that you won't find more villainous camaraderie in the galaxy, Mos Eisley Cantina. And then we are instantly introduced to arguably the second most badass movie character of all time, Han Solo. We instantly know this guy's wanted. He's wanted by this weird man named Jabba the Hutt, who, by the way, is not in A New Hope. No matter how much George Lucas wants you to believe Jabba the Hutt's in A New Hope, he's in Return of the fucking Jedi. He is not in A New Hope. He is not in Empire Strikes Back. We only hear his name, which is better to only hear his name because then it sort of gives us this sense of suspicion. Who is Jabba the Hutt? So then Han shoots first at this weird alien-looking creature called Greedo. I know who he is, but he also says who he is. And then they eventually meet up. They team up. Obi-Wan's like, we'll give you money, just take us around the galaxy. So they go in the most badass ship in all of the galaxy, the Millennium Falcon. So they're, cruising around the galaxy. I'm learning how to be a Jedi. I don't believe in that stuff. What is that? It's a space station. It's too big to be a space station. I think you're right. Those little lines just bring up the scale of what this really is. This Death Star. They don't know it's a Death Star. They thought it was a moon. No, it's a fucking space station. So before they actually see it, Leia and Darth Vader are trying to communicate, and Darth Vader's trying to get where the hell are the rebels. She gives him where the rebels are. They don't know, it's fake. So then they end up blowing up her planet because they're dickheads. By the way, Tarkin is an underrated character. He's the one who destroyed it, not Darth Vader. Darth Vader wanted to. Tarkin gave the orders. Tarkin's a badass as well. So they get cloaked into the Death Star, the Millennium Falcon, right? So they're in there, right? They're in the Death Star. They got him captured. But what they do, as stormtroopers come up to inspect, they beat their asses. They put them on, and they start walking around in disguises. So we have Obi-Wan, Luke, C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca. How the fuck did I forget to mention Chewbacca? They're walking around, and they're trying to save this person named Princess Leia. So they find out that she's on this ship. So they're running around trying to find them. They eventually do find her. They escape, and there's so many little things. There's so many little intense moments that happen while they're on the Death Star that I don't want to completely mention, just because it's like I think you guys should just go watch it. But there's just so many little intense moments, like the Sarlacc pit when they're not the Sarlacc pit, when they're in the garbage chute and there's a monster going underneath and they're trying to do that, and then they're all happy and all that shit when they, escape, as I would be if I was able to escape. So then Obi-Wan and Darth Vader meet, and we're like, oh my god, what's about to happen? Oh my god, a red lightsaber! Wow, I thought they were only blue! No, they're red when you're bad! And making the lightsaber a different color, blue and red, is also really genius. Because it could be easy. It's like two guns. They could be the same color, but one could be bad, one could be good. But having the thing that it's red when you're bad, blue when you're good, it sort of lets you know who's bad, who's good. Which could take away suspicion, but there is no suspicion needed. We know who's bad and good. So then they fight while Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2, there's so many great characters, all trying to escape the Death Star, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's taking the fall. He's fighting Darth Vader. And in this moment, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi could have been Darth Vader, but instead he looks at Luke, looks back at Darth Vader, realizes, I do not need this. This is not my mission. It is not my job to do this. It is that person's job, because he is going to be the savior of this galaxy. He puts his lightsaber up and he gets slashed down, but his body disappears. And then you hear Luke, no! By the way, in general, George Lucas writing, he likes to convey emotions with words. Like when Darth Vader says, no! Or, Anakin, you're breaking my heart! But here, I actually think it works. When something happens to you, something so bad, and you see it right in front of you, you're going to say no, not no! You're going to say no! Real quick, that's it. That's all you need. So they then eventually escape the Death Star in the badass Millennium Falcon and go to the Rebel Alliance sort of hideout where they're hiding away from the Empire, and then they're starting to scheme the plan to go destroy the Death Star, and we find out there's a little activation ring they could shoot a thing in, shoot a torpedo, and bam, it'll blow up. So Luke suits up to go, but Han Solo is just like, I'm going to take my money and I'm going to leave. So we think Han Solo this whole time is leaving. You're like, no, don't leave us! So then there's this epic ass space battle, which this space battle might just be the most revolutionary piece of filmmaking in the history of filmmaking. We've never seen anything like this in 1977. We've never seen anything so epic. Yeah, we had 2001 A Space Odyssey, which looks great, but this was truly just fucking amazing. So Luke is flying his X-Wing. Yes, I know it's an X-Wing. He's flying his X-Wing, right? First of all, this ship is badass. It's shaped like an X. That's why it's called an X-Wing, right? And eventually we get to a situation where Luke is the only one of the rebel X-Wings left, and he's facing 3 other bad guys behind him, including Darth Vader. Now, we realize Darth Vader is not really high on this hierarchy here, because he's actually going out to do shit. Usually, we've known in film, when you're at the highest point, you kind of just sit back and let everyone else do the work. But he's actually going to do some work, which either makes him even more badass or just less in the hierarchy. So they're all flying their ship, and then randomly, both the ships behind Darth Vader get shot down, including Darth Vader's ship. And then you hear, Yahoo! And you're like, yes, Han came back. Yes, he's not out of these movies forever. He's back. Yes! And then we randomly hear, use the Force, Luke. And Luke closes his eyes, just imagining and feeling the Force within him and realizing he is going to be a Jedi one of these days. We realized that right away. Yeah, with the thing on the freaking ship when he was using the lightsaber a little bit, that was such a little thing. But we really see him master the Force and shoot that torpedo, and it goes perfectly right in the center, not even to the side, right in the middle, blows up the Death Star, bam. But Darth Vader's ship is just spiraling out of control. Darth Vader is good, so we're also like, alright, Darth Vader is good too. We're good. Everyone we wanted alive in this whole entire movie is alive. So then Han and Luke and Chewbacca all go back to the planet to receive their medals of honor for beating the Empire, and then we see them all celebrating, and then Star Wars is over. Now, if you watch this movie, you'll realize this is a film. This generally started and ended perfectly. Yeah, seeing the other 2 movies now, we realize it's a whole trilogy and there's a whole saga to be made. But if this movie didn't do good, and we watch this today, this is generally a film. It starts, climax, ending. Perfect 3-film structure. It's a perfect film. Star Wars A New Hope is truly one of the most revolutionary movies of all time, and I don't know where film would be without it. I don't know where I would be in my life without it, as this was like Star Wars when I was younger was the main way I cope with life and cope with all that. So all I could say is thank you, George Lucas, for making this universe. I'm going to give Star Wars A New Hope an A+. Thank you guys all for watching my review of Star Wars A New Hope. I'm going to be reviewing one new Star Wars movie every week. Why? Because I want to. I want to watch these movies again. So I'm going to be reviewing one new movie every single week. Starting with A New Hope because it was the original one. Watch out for Empire Strikes Back next week. So make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss that upload. And as always, keep watching movies.